Proverbs chapter 10, verse 25. And I'd like you to repeat after me. Everyone say, as the whirlwind passes, so is the wicked no more. But the righteous is an everlasting foundation. What a powerful statement you just made. What a powerful expose of your spiritual identity. God declares that you are not a temporal, but an everlasting foundation if you adhere to righteous principles. If you are among the righteous, God said, you are a foundation. You are a foundation, not only a foundation that other people can build on, but a foundation that God is definitely building on as He builds toward the goal of a heavenly New Jerusalem that will be the capital city of a new creation. You are all about the foundation that is being laid for God's ultimate purposes in the universe. Now, doesn't that expand your awareness of who you are and what this life is all about? It's not just about fighting mental battles, emotional battles, spiritual battles on a day-to-day basis and trying to survive and just barely make it in. It's all about this huge plan that God has that stretches from eternity to eternity, from eternity past to eternity future, and you're a part of that plan. In fact, you're in the foundation. You're in the foundation. Now, you may have a hard time believing that. Maybe that sounds a little bit ostentatious to you, that you or I would claim such a thing, and yet I've read the book of Revelation. I'm sure you have too, and I've read the description of the holy city, New Jerusalem, that comes down out of heaven from God. And I read that there's 12 gates to the city, and there's 12 names over those gates, which are the 12 tribes of Israel. And there's 12 foundations to the city, and the names that are engraved on the 12 foundations are the 12 what? Apostles of the Lamb. And so if the apostles are so identified with the holy city, New Jerusalem, that their names are engraved in the foundation, they're not the only ones God's building on. Certainly they were the initial voices of truth in the new covenant era that God built this whole move of God for the last 2,000 years upon, but they're not the only ones God has used. There's many others in the foundation. Would you lift your hand right now and make a confession? Say, I am an everlasting foundation. People can build their lives on my witness and testimony, and God can build His purposes on what He's doing in my life. That should show you your significance. That should show you your importance to this evolving of the plan of God. Hallelujah. Now, the reason that we can be an everlasting foundation is the fact that we have an everlasting foundation. Because within ourselves, there's nothing that stable, that strong, to be able to claim that title or that identity within ourselves. In fact, in Job chapter 4, verse 18, God says, behold, He put no trust in His servants, and His angels He charged with folly. How much less them that dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust. They are destroyed from morning to evening. They perish without any regarding. And so an unregenerate person who is not in covenant with God, their foundation is in the dust. How many of you would build a house on a foundation of dust? How long would that house last? How secure would you feel living in that house? Of course, dust is what the human body was originally made of. Dust thou art, unto dust thou shalt return. I quoted that to my wife several years ago when we came back from an evangelistic trip, and she walked in a certain room of the house, and I heard her scream. She said, "Oh no, it's back!" And I imagined some creepy, crawly, slimy creature crawling across the floor, and I, in my masculine prowess, would go in and stamp the thing out of existence and prove my undying devotion to my spouse. Well, it didn't exactly happen like that. I ran in and said, "What is it? What is it?" She said, "Dust." I dusted all of these shelves before we left, and now they're all coated again. I said, "Honey, don't worry about that." I said, "It's either somebody coming or going. You know, dust thou art, unto dust thou shalt return." That's kind of a morbid thought. Think of that next time you're dusting your shelves. But our foundation is in the dust if we're not linked up with God. But if we are covenanted with God, if we have entered into this wonderful opportunity of relationship, then we shift from a dust foundation to an eightfold foundation that is so secure, we become secure. It is so strong, we become strong. It is so immovable, we become immovable. It is so unconquerable, we become unconquerable. 8 different aspects to the foundation that is laid under us. Now, I see the connection between these two thoughts even more when I read the New King James Version of the same passage. Proverbs 10:25, which you repeated after me in the New King James, says, "When the whirlwind passes by, the wicked is no more, but the righteous has an everlasting foundation." See the correlation? We are an everlasting foundation because we have an everlasting foundation. We have become as stable as that we are building our lives upon. Now let me break that verse down a little bit more in both the King James and New King James. Starting with the King James, "As the whirlwind passes, so is the wicked no more." In other words, there's something similar. There's something very similar between a wicked person and a whirlwind, a tornado. A tornado. The tornado comes through an area, destroys everything in its path, and then leaves, and you have no proof of its existence once it dissipates, except for the destruction left in its wake. So is a wicked person. They come through this world, they pass on, and the only proof they ever existed are the damaged lives and hearts left in the wake of that person. As the whirlwind passes by, so is the wicked no more. But the righteous is an everlasting foundation. Now, a little bit different flavor of interpretation comes with the New King James. It says, "When the whirlwind passes by, the wicked is no more." When the whirlwind. In other words, a wicked person has no defense, no protection, no security when the whirlwinds of life whip by. But see, you and I, because we are connected with the Most High, can often quote the powerful passage that I often repeat in times of trial, that God has His way in the whirlwind and the clouds are the dust of His feet. The Lord has His way. Everybody say His way. Satan will not have Satan's way in these whirlwind type events in life. God will have His way. And that's why I can claim stability in life. Because when the whirlwind passes by, the wicked is no more. They're overtaken, they're overwhelmed, they're blown to pieces.